School. Welcome, y'all. Good to be back. Good to be back. Today I'm going to talk about my life, my experience in Christianity, okay? So, some of you all, I don't think I've ever talked about this in detail with anyone, at least that I can remember. Let me see. But I want to talk to you about my experience in Christianity and how that has led me to be the man I am now. Okay? All right. So you can get to know me better. And maybe you can relate to some of the things that I'm going to talk about. Okay? So let's see. How do I want to do this? All right, so Shalawama, Islam to all the Moors, Genesis chapter 2, Genesis chapter 10, Jubilees chapter 8. You should know those by now if you've been following Zion Law School here on YouTube. You should know that by now. If you don't, go back and watch the content we have on this channel. All right, go back and watch that. Watch the videos that I did on the Moors, something like the Moors are the law of the land or something like that. Go back and watch those videos. Watch the videos again that I did with Sanetta and Dr. G. You'll find Sanetta. The video I did with Sanetta, you'll find that on the home page of this YouTube channel. All right. Okay. So go back and watch that if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Genesis chapter 2, Genesis chapter 10, and Jubilees chapter 8, verse 8. You should be able to understand what that's telling you in terms of your status. All right, in terms of your status and your heritability. Okay, you should understand from that, and when you go back and watch those videos, you should understand why you're experiencing things in life the way you experience them if you're in the United States of North America. All right, and when you travel abroad, why that stuff follows you. So you should be able to understand all of that in the context of Deuteronomy chapter 28, Exodus chapter 20. Okay? All right. So if you don't understand that, go back and listen and learn, all right? Okay? Go back and listen and learn. All right, y'all. So I got my black coffee today. No sugar. Which means no sugar, no cream, which means what? There's not gonna be any sugar in my mouth to cause bad breath or tooth decay, right? That's why I don't take sugar and cream, because it'll cause you to have bad breath and tooth decay or cavities, caries. And that's my hot tea today. Yeah. That's my hot tea today. So I don't know why they serve it like that, but I'm not gonna get angry. Listen, y'all. You know, it took me a long time. I took a lot of abuse. I took a lot of losses from family, friends, and from the religious organization that I was with or in, right? Okay? In Christianity, during those years in Christianity. Looking back, it was the absolute most awful experience that a person can have. All right? Looking back. Okay? Especially having found out that they were involved, that it's a secret society organization. It was funded by a secret society member and organization with the purpose of accomplishing secret society goals or their agenda. Okay, this is what I found out. All right. So let's start. Let's start. All right, let's start. This is about my life in Christianity from start to finish, from start to finish. So I got into Christianity when I just turned 17 years old. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I just turned about 17 years old, or 17, 18, I don't remember. Long time ago, okay? And there was an Italian guy. Italian guy came to my door. He was middle-aged, right? And in the place I grew up at, there were a lot of Italians, all right? There were a lot of Italians. And he was like the Sopranos. If you ever saw the Sopranos type of Italian, that's what he was. He looked like that. Hold on, I gotta get away from this cigarette smoke. Hold on. Give me a second. I can't stand cigarette smoke. This place doesn't have a non-smoking section that's quiet. It's by the street, so there's a lot of traffic noise. Hold on a second. Just how a person smokes cigarettes in 2022, knowing what cigarettes does or causes, it's just unbelievable to me. In Vietnam, let me tell you what they have on the package of cigarettes. In Vietnam, they have on a package of cigarettes an image of, hold on y'all, give me a second. In Vietnam, on every package of cigarettes that I've seen, I don't know because I'm not a smoker, right? But the ones I've seen, they got a picture of a man. He's emaciated. That means he's skin and bones, right? He's skin and bones. I don't know if they're showing a man who has cancer or what it is, okay? But the man is skin and bones, he's emaciated, and he's sucking on a cigarette stick. And then there's a sign that it looks like it says warning. And he looks like he can't breathe, okay? So how does somebody in this culture smoke cigarettes? Seeing that image on the package, I just don't understand it, you know? And actually, to be honest with you, I don't want to understand that. But anyway, let me get back on topic. So I got into Christianity, I was about 17, 18 years old, right? And I grew up in an extremely toxic family situation. Extremely dysfunctional, extremely toxic. Extremely, okay? It was a middle-class neighborhood. And my biological father was a policeman. And, so he worked a lot. You know how that goes when people are policemen, firemen, or blue-collar jobs. They want to get as much overtime as they can, right? Or maybe they need to. I don't know what his situation was. He never told me. But he worked a lot, okay? And I think I mentioned in yesterday's video, he and my mother, my biological mother, divorced. I must have been 2 or 3. I don't remember anything about my biological mother. Maybe 3 or 4, I have no idea. But I have memories before I started elementary school. I can remember, some things. but I don't have any memory of her. So I think my mind probably blocked it out, right? It must have been very traumatic. But anyway, so I didn't know her. I saw her again for the first time. I must have been 11 years old. And I walked in the house, right? I walked in the house and I saw this lady sitting there. And my biological mother was, I think she was very dark. I would say she was very dark. She had, if y'all can think back to the 80s, y'all remember 80s videos or 80s music, she had her hair in that style, all right? Like curly, like a curly type of afro type of thing, but it was long. And she had on what looked like, well, I really can't, I'm not going to say because I'm not sure. But she was well dressed, and I couldn't relate to her. Just when I saw her, I couldn't relate to her. She didn't look like people that I was accustomed to seeing, not because of her color, but you know, just it was whatever that nonverbal communication is. I couldn't relate to her. But anyway, so I met her, and I wanted to go back outside and finish riding my bike like any other kid, right? So I didn't really want to stay and talk to her. And so from that point, we would go over to her house on the weekend, and everybody knows how that goes, right? Your weekend at your mother. So my father raised me. So a lot of y'all will ask, well, how did that happen, right? How does a father get custody of his children? Okay, so if you're able to answer that question, you should have an idea, or you should already know, right? I don't know the specifics because nobody ever told me and I never asked. No, that's not true. That's not true. One of my family members told me that he was able to get us because during that time, let's say in the 70s, if you were a policeman, things could be done for you that wouldn't be done for other people. All right, now I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was told. So we wound up being raised by our father, and my father was always at work, which turns out to be a very, very good thing. I'm so grateful that it turned out to be that way, because he was a very toxic personality. All right. So anyway, so I got to see my mother and how she behaved with other people and her children, and I decided that I didn't want to be around her. I don't like people who yell and scream, holler and scream, always cussing, right? Always cussing, yelling, screaming, cussing at people, gossiping, she was so disrespectful to other people, right? And she would always confirm her righteousness or her being right by throwing in something about God don't like ugly, right? But she everything she said, she would throw something in there, right? Like God is on her side, something to that effect. But I was old enough and conscious enough, aware enough to understand that what she was doing is wrong. And she was hurting people, right? She would interfere with people's relationships, destroy marriages. Oh, it was terrible. So I think when I was about 16, well, I get to that. So let's go back. So that was my early experience with my mother, and I didn't want to go over there anymore, okay? Now let's go back to when I was living in my father's house. So I didn't like my father. My father he brought that policeman mentality into the house. Y'all understand what I mean? That authoritative bossing you around, yelling and screaming, you know, hitting you with a belt, extension cord, and we had no rapport, right? We had no rapport. Everything was a threat and yelling and disrespect, right? There's nothing ever. I don't have any memories as a teenager or a young child as my father showing, talking to me with respect. You know, it was always threat and intimidation, okay, and disrespect. That's how I remember him as a young child. But anyway, so it is what it is. I know other people who grew up whose fathers was a policeman, and they had similar experiences. Okay, so I got to the point where whenever I heard his car pulling in the driveway, or if I knew when he was coming home, I would either leave or go to my room or do something so I wouldn't have to see him, because he would always have something negative to say about me, all right, or to me. But it wasn't just me, it was to my brothers too. But in front of other people, when other people came around, he would act like he was the nicest person in the world. So that was my first experience with people, I guess, with a good cop, bad cop type of thing. You know what I mean? Right? On the one hand, threatening, intimidating, but as soon as somebody else comes around, he wants to show he's a very good person, kind person, do anything for you. But in my interactions with him alone, he was a damn terror. Right? But when I began to get older, he stopped hitting me. This was, I think I was about maybe ninth grade. Ninth grade, he stopped hitting me. And by then I had developed a reputation for being somebody who would fight, right? Because I was, now I'm going to get to the Christianity. I want y'all to understand what led me into Christianity. That's why I'm telling you this stuff, okay? So I was one of the skinniest boys in my neighborhood. At that time, people used to say I looked like a mixed kid because I had curly hair, and I'm not a mixed person. I'm not mixed with anything, okay? I had curly hair. The color of my skin, in the sun, my skin, people used to think maybe I'm from some Hispanic country, right? Now, y'all saw my complexion. Y'all see my complexion, right? But I have like a mahogany type of complexion or cinnamon type of complexion, right? And people used to think I was Spanish or something like that. People would ask me, "Are you Spanish?" And then I had an uncle, people thought he was an Arab. And then I had another uncle who was flaming. He was flaming, really flaming. People thought that, well, he would tell people that he was from Greece because he was passing, y'all, if y'all know what passing means, right? He was flaming and he was passing. But that was how he chose to get through life, right? So anyway, I had a lot of problems. I had to fight my whole way through like junior high school and then up until 10th grade, about 11th grade. Because I was skinny. Back in those days, I was handsome. And a lot of girls used to like me. Y'all know how it goes in high school. Girls like you, and then their boyfriend gets mad, or some other dudes on the football or basketball team gets angry, and you know, you're new to the school. You know, you're coming out of 9th grade. Back then, they used to call it junior high school. It wasn't middle school. So I'm coming out of 9th grade into 10th grade, going to the high school, right? And there's people there I never knew from my neighborhood, right? Because it was my high school was a pretty big high school, right? I think it was maybe 2,000, 3,000, maybe even 4,000 students there. It was a big school. And, but anyways, you know, people tried to bully me. And I would fight, right? And then after I beat up about 3-4 people, really, really hurt them, they started leaving me alone. And these were athletes, right? And then they said, well, this little skinny guy, he looks skinny and frail. Maybe I look like a wuss to them. Because I ain't reached puberty until I was like 17. I didn't get hair under my arms until I was about 17 years old. All my other friends, they had mustache and beard when they were, some of them had it in junior high, but everybody had it by the time they were in like 10th grade. Everybody has a little facial hair, right? Hair under their arms, you know. I didn't have it. So, anyway, so I had to fight, y'all. I had to fight. Okay? I wasn't fighting over anything that I did. I was fighting because of the way I looked. Okay? Because of the way I look, and not because I was handsome. They thought that I was some kind of wuss. That I wasn't quote unquote black. All right. I used to wear a bandana, you know, tie a bandana around my head. I used to love wearing my bandana, but I had to stop because people would, I mean, it would lead into some controversy and conflict, and eventually I have to fight, right? So that's the way it was for me when I grew up. And I grew up in a Orthodox Jewish community where they, you know, y'all know the people who wear the black, they wear the black, those Khazars, they were all black. They were some of the most hateful, vindictive people you could ever imagine. And they controlled the city, and the police force, they used it like a Gestapo. They used the police to intimidate children. Yeah, that's right. So, you know, when you get older, you start to realize, so I realized, well, they're hiring, this is when I got to be older in my 20s, I realized that they were hiring policemen who were in their early 20s, maybe 21, something like that, when I was a child. Okay, these policemen were 21, 25, like that. I didn't realize it until I got in my 20s. And I saw how they hired. Like, you know, you see the, if you live in a neighborhood, you're from a neighborhood, you see and you know, right? And they used to harass the children, the elementary school children. Like stop you for no good reason. Stop you and what's your name and you know, what's your address? What's your phone number? Stuff like that. I mean, Gestapo tactics. Can y'all imagine a grown man, a 21, 25-year-old man doing that to a 4th or 5th grader? But yet, some of y'all people still think that the troglodyte hybrid Paleolithic human are superior. Superior people wouldn't act like that, right? It's not how superior people act. But what kind of people would act like that? What kind of people do intimidate babies? What kind of people? What do you think is behind that? What would cause a, even if you were asked to do that, what kind of man would even comply with that? Why would an institution do that? What's their motive? What's the purpose? What's the intent? What are they trying to accomplish by that? Intimidating children. Think about that. Think about that. But anyway, I experienced that. And then we used to have house parties. Anything that we did as people, be it a house party, going to the park, playing basketball, they would send police cars to intimidate us, arrest us. Right? I remember one time I was coming from a house party. Me and a friend of mine that I knew since before elementary school, this dude's name was Tyrone. We called him Tidy. You know, he went from Tidy Bow because he had these brown spots on his teeth. Y'all remember the Tidy Bow man? So everybody called him the Tidy Bow man. Went from Tidy Bow man to Tidy Bow, and then his nickname that stuck with him as a teenager and an adult is Tidy. So everybody calls him Tidy, Tyrone. We're like brothers. I sure would like to see Tidy again, you know? We were like brothers. So we're walking home from this house party. The police pull us over, arrest us. We're like, we must have been 12 or 13 years? No. We must have been about 14 years old. They arrest us, take us to the police station, and then they tried to intimidate us to admit that we stole a bike that night. Okay? And you know what they said? They said, well, if you admit to it and you write your name right here, and they had a recorder and everything, if you just admit that you stole it, we'll let you go home. We'll let you go home. But for whatever reason, I was able to refuse to do it. Okay? I refused to admit to it, but there were a lot, I'm sure there's a lot of little children who would have been either afraid, or they just would have said, you know what, let me just go ahead and admit to this so I can go home. And now they would have had a case, right? You know, when they went to court, they were gonna be convicted, and now they have a criminal record, right? So that if something else happens, next step is juvenile detention, right? And then the next step is you're going to prison. So they did stuff like that, Gestapo type of stuff. Okay, that's why anything a policeman says or a police department says, I think is bullshit. It's a lie, because that's my experience with them, including my father and all my relatives who were policemen, except for one, my Uncle Ronald. My Uncle Ronald was a good guy. He was a policeman, but he was a good guy. But my father was extremely envious and jealous of my Uncle Ronald. My Uncle Bud was a very good man. My Uncle Bud, I think he did one or two tours in World War II. I think he did 3 or 4 tours in Korea, the war in Korea. And then, in Korea, he got his commission as an officer. And then he did another, I think like 2 or 3, I might have the number of tours mixed up, but he did a lot of tours in these wars, right? And then he did about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 tours in the Vietnam War, okay? And he was forced to retire, and I'll tell you all that. I'll tell you why he was forced to retire. But my Uncle Bud was a good man, and he was, in my family, my Uncle Bud had such a positive influence on my life. He changed the trajectory of my life, okay? So I have to credit that with my Uncle Bud. But let me tell you about my Uncle Bud. So my Uncle Bud, as I told you, he was, you know, in the military. So when he left, he became the director of security, or the guy in charge of security of this big junior college system, a big community college system in our area, right? It was a county funded community college, so they serviced the whole county, right? So it was a big college system. They had like 3-4 campuses, something like that. It was a big junior college. And he was the director of security of that after he left the military. But it's funny how a man can survive war. He can survive during multiple tours in war, but then his wife does him in. his wife does him in. So the way I heard the story is that he was forced to retire because his wife at that time, I don't know what she was mad about, but she threatened, or she did call his bosses in the military and, said he did this and he did that. And back at that time, when you were in the military, excuse me, when you were in the military, you had to be squeaky clean as far as how you treat your family, your wife. So he was forced into retirement. He was on track to become a general. He was one step away from becoming a general, and his wife ruined it for him. All right, so y'all got to be, every man should, well, every woman, one of the most important decisions you'll make, and I know this from personal experience, is the person you choose to be your husband or your wife. All right? That person can make you or destroy you, have you locked up. Okay? Everything you built in your life before you met her, she can destroy it overnight. And you may not ever be able to get back where you were when you met her. Or it might take you 10 years. It might take you 20 years just to get back to where you were when you met this person. All right? That's real talk. But anyway, let's get back to the topic. So the school systems, I was a very good student in elementary school. Very good. Even though by the time I got, I remember my, I think it was my kindergarten teacher. It was a husband and wife named Mr. and Mrs. Handler. Right? I really, really liked them. Mr. and Mrs. Handler. Yeah, I really liked them. I'm still very creative. I was very creative. I was very aware. Very good hand-eye coordination. I was a good student. But by the time I got into somewhere around 3rd grade, I began to realize that I wasn't welcome in the school. I could tell that by the way teachers interacted with me. So, like I said, the community I grew up with, it was primarily Orthodox Jewish community. And the teachers were Paleolithic. They were Paleolithic human. Hybrid troglodyte niggers. Okay? And I can tell by the way they spoke to me, by the way they looked at me, and by the way they interacted with me, that they didn't like me and they didn't like us. Now, I don't know how many other people, I don't know how many of my classmates were aware of that, but I was very aware of it. So I decided to detach. I didn't really want to be in school anymore. If it wasn't on the playground, I didn't want to be there because I didn't feel welcome. All right? I didn't feel welcome. So I lost interest in anything that they had to say, right? I lost interest in any and everything that they had to say. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. And then I remember one of my favorite teachers in 4th grade, her name was Mrs. Schwartz. Mrs. Schwartz was teaching us about the Constitution. And she was telling us that in the Constitution, that black people are 3/5 of a person. Yeah, that's what she told us. So I said, well, wait a minute. Nobody else said anything. I don't know if because they were too shy or if it was because they were not aware. I said, well, wait a minute. 3/5 of a person is not a whole person. I'm a whole person. But well, let me rephrase that. What does that say? If I said, wait a minute, 3/5 of a person is not a whole person, I'm a whole person. What information is embedded in that statement that I made? And I remember that as clear as day. As clear as day, I remember this. So a lot of y'all are thinking, oh, he realized that 3/5 of a person is less than a whole, right? So a lot of y'all recognize that. Well, by the time I was in 4th grade, I had already developed my self-image as being a black person. Y'all see that? My self-image was a black person. Not an American. Not an American, not a more. A black person. So I was in 4th grade and I was already under the programming, the hypnosis, that I was a black person, and all of the negativity, all of the disrespect that goes along with it. Y'all understand me? Understand what I'm saying? The psychic attacks. Y'all follow me? Now, where did I learn that from? Where did I learn that from? I tell you where. My father called us niggas. Okay, my father called us niggas. All the time, yelling and screaming. Niggas. You niggas. Nigga do this and nigga do that. Also on TV. Back in my time, you watch shows like Good Times, The Jeffersons. That's, when I was those were popular when I was little. The Jeffersons, Good Times. What else? Well, shows like that, right? When I was coming up, those formative years. So I had already been programmed. I had already been detached from the land, detached from my nationality, and it was done primarily by my father calling me niggas all the time. Right? And TV. Being left at home to watch TV. Okay? Back in those days, children used to go outside, play basketball, play football, all of these things, but we were calling each other's niggas. So where do we learn that from? They probably learned it the same way I learned it from their parents. They were probably being called niggas by their parents. I don't know, I never asked. Okay? And black people. Okay? And then you see Jesse Jackson on TV. And then, of course, I used to hear that song, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Right? You see James Brown. And then you see shows like the Donahue Show, Oprah Winfrey, where they talk about black issues. And then Farrakhan and all of that garbage. So by 4th grade, my self-image was a black person. That's tragic, y'all. That's tragic. Look up in a dictionary, look up the definition of black. Now, words have meaning. So I heard somebody, I think it was on Sonetta. I don't remember for sure who it was that said this. But there was a conversation about, should we be called black or something like that, right? And so whoever this person was, they were saying that black, when we say black, what we're talking about is the triple darkness of space and the cosmos and all of this stuff that was way, way out there to me, because when I said black, I didn't think about any of that stuff. None of that stuff was ever on my mind when I said black. When I said black, I was talking about a person who's in black culture, right? And when I said nigga, I was talking about a person who has the same complexion as me. Okay? No, thank you. I was talking about a person who looks like me. All right? But that's what I was thinking. However, I was using that terminology connotatively, right? Words have meaning and words have power. The etymological meaning of words are more powerful than the connotative meaning of words, all right? You can say, well, you just playing with words, right? You're just playing with words. The etymological meaning of a word doesn't matter, but let me tell you something, it does matter. It does matter. Why? Because you may not be aware of it, but the words have energy. Words have energy. Words can influence you. Words can influence you. See, language is not something that was made up. Language are a gift. Language is a gift that came to you at birth. All right? Those words have meaning. Whether you know the meaning or not, the meaning is still extremely impactful in your life. So you can use connotative linguistics all you want and think it's not affecting you, but you're only fooling yourself. You are only fooling yourself. So ignore etymology, ignore learning about linguistics, principles and concepts if you want, and you're going to continue to get beat up because you don't understand language. Language is a natural law. Language is a science. Linguistics is a science. Linguistics is nature. Language is natural. That's why you can have a young child. That young child, if there are 30 languages in the community, where he grows up, that young child will be able to speak and write 30 languages, and it's effortless. It will be effortless because the brain is wired for language. All right? The same way your brain is wired to be able to see. The same way your brain is wired to be able to hear, to be able to speak. Why do you think you can speak? Because you're wired for language. All right? And that language is information that has existed forever. That's right, forever. Intelligence has to be communicated. Mathematics is a language. Zeros and ones, that's a language. Y'all understand what I'm saying to you? All right? It's natural. It is natural. Body language is a language. Love is a language. Information is communicated through language. Otherwise, it's not information. It's gibberish. That's why you need to learn language, right? You need to learn the principles that govern language or linguistics. Etymology does matter, right? There's energy. There's energy that does impact your life, probably even at a subconscious level and a conscious level, right? I never studied it, but I know from my experience. But anyway, so yeah, I was in 4th grade, and I was already identifying myself as a black person. Okay. So I told my teacher, Ms. Schwartz, I said, well, wait a minute, I'm a whole person. How can that apply to me? I'm a whole person. And she said to me, she says, you're right, you are a whole person, but this is the way you were seen. Your people were seen at that time. That's what she told me. Of course, later on, I learned that that had to do with counting the population. Okay, counting the population, but the effect is still the same as three-fifths of a person, right? Counting the population to determine the number of representatives, etc., etc., etc. But anyway, so I think my 5th grade teacher was Miss Tomorrow, and she was pretty nice to us. She was laid back. She was laid back. I didn't have any problems with her. And then my favorite teacher of all time was Miss Watson. I think she was probably everybody's favorite teacher of all time. Everybody loved Miss Watson. She was so beautiful. And she had this New York accent. Miss Watson was tall. She loved playing basketball. So y'all know all of the kids love Miss Watson. Yeah, Miss Watson. I wonder where she's at. I sure would like to see her again. Her and her husband. I don't know if they're still together. I haven't seen them in years. But Mr. and Mrs. Watson, right? Really, really good people. She really, I mean, I could relate to her. You know, I could really relate to her. I didn't relate to her husband so much. He seemed to be more of the quiet kind of guy. You know, you don't know what he's thinking kind of guy. That's what I got when I was young from him. But her, I could relate to her. I felt connected and I could trust her. But I didn't feel like I could relate or trust her husband. Maybe because he didn't talk enough, right? Or he was just too quiet. I don't know. But anyway, Miss Watson made me more interested in school. Okay, but then when I got to junior high school, it was a whole repeat of what I experienced in about the 3rd grade, right? I had this math teacher, I think his name was Mr. Brady. He was a straight up drunk. He used to come to school, we smell alcohol on his breath. But anyway, by the time I got into middle school or junior high school, I was no longer interested in school, all right? And by the time I got in the 9th grade, the interactions with my father, all that yelling and screaming, I really didn't want to be around him. And I couldn't wait until I was grown, right? So I could get out of that house. And long story short, high school, I wasn't interested in learning. I was getting in fights, you know, cutting school, wasn't going to school because I wasn't interested. I didn't want to be there. They totally turned me off, the teachers. And I had this principal named Dr. Ackerman, who, she wasn't good to me, okay? She made my life hell. But anyway, I stopped going to school. And then because of that, of course, I failed a lot of classes and all of that. And then I had to go to summer school. And that's when I realized that I had to develop discipline, okay? And I think it was 10th grade that I had to go to summer school because I failed so many classes. So in that experience of going to summer school, there was these 2 hybrid teachers that I had. One looked like he was in his 40s. He was an accountant. Then the other one looked like he was in his late 20s or 30s. And so these 2 guys, they were kind to me, right? They were good people, at least teachers. And I reconnected with education, okay? So I think what happens with, at least with me, maybe this is for all of our people or most of our people, I think with me, the relationship with the teacher is what was most important, right? If I felt like they didn't like me or if I felt like they didn't like me or if I wasn't welcome, because y'all be honest, you know a lot of these hybrids, they don't like you for no other reason than they don't like you, okay? And you know what that's about. But these 2 guys, you know, They were nice to me, and they actually took time out to actually pay attention to me and teach me. We were doing like accounting. Yeah, we were doing accounting, and whatever questions I had, they would answer. They would answer rather. They'd answer my questions, and so I became interested in accounting. I got good at it, right? And they used to say encouraging things to me, like I should go to college. You know, you're very good at this. You're a smart guy. Those type of things. So now I'm remotivated to learn. Okay. So then 11th grade, because I was beating people up, I beat this one guy up, broke his leg. I hurt a lot of people when I was fighting, y'all. I hurt a lot of people, and I eventually regretted that. This is going to lead me into Christianity. Okay. So I beat this guy up. Dr. Ackerman made sure I got expelled. She kicked me out of school. And I had to go to another school. So my father knew somebody who was a principal at our rivalry school, which was, well, I won't say the name, but it was our rival. And so I had to go there. And my reputation followed me because I beat up a lot of guys from that school. So nobody really bothered me. I had some close encounters, almost fights. And then I had a cousin who was a straight up coward. And I mean, he, first cousin, but he, y'all ever have a cousin who, well, I can't even call him a cousin, okay? First cousin by blood, but by the way he has acted our entire lives, I don't claim him as a family member because of the way he's treated me through the years, right? But anyway, so I made it through that situation. And that gave me, I made a commitment to myself. Well, actually, no. I remember I was driving this car. A friend of mine, well, actually, he wasn't my friend. So there was a situation. I'm driving this car. I'm not going to go into it. I'm driving this car, and we were drunk, right? I must have been like 16 years old, and we're drunk, and I'm driving crazy. So my friend said, "Hey, man, let me out of this car," right? So I pulled over. I let him out. And then we're like near the projects. We're near the projects, and all of a sudden I get this thought, man, if you don't straighten your life out, you're gonna wind up in the projects. And I didn't want to be poor, and I definitely didn't want to live in the projects. So somehow or another, I sobered myself up, took that car back to the place where I got it. Okay, it wasn't nothing illegal. Took it back to where I got it, and I said, you know what? I'm straightening my life out. I'm going to graduate from high school. I'm not going to wind up poor and in the projects. Whatever it was, I'm so thankful, but that scared me to death. And that's one of the things that inspired me to finish high school. Then my father kicked me out of the house because I had an argument with one of my sisters. And I got a sister who's a very vindictive type of person. Can't get along with nobody. I'm not going to say their name, but can't get along with anybody. Will lie on you in a hot second just to get you in trouble, right? Because she knew my father would not even listen to anything I or one of my brothers said. You know, you just gonna get it, right? So she told a lie on me, got me kicked out of the house. So I went to my mother's house. I'll never forget this. My mother used that situation to file child support for my father, from my father. And once she got the paperwork, I guess, started for the child support, she took me downtown and tried to have me put in juvenile detention center, tried to have me locked up, okay? So she would get the child support money and then not have to deal with me as a child, right? I guess that was her motive, or maybe the motive was to hurt my father. I don't know. She never told me. So there was a man named Mr. Horton, right? So we had a meeting with Mr. Horton, me and my mother, and she's telling him, well, he doesn't come home on time, and, you know, complaining about all the things that teenagers do, right? And so Mr. Horton said, well, wait a minute. He says, well, this is just stuff that teenagers do. He hasn't done anything deserving of being put in juvenile detention center. And he called her out. He said, it sounds to me like you just don't want to be a parent. And so he says, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to emancipate this child. I didn't know what that meant. So I became an adult. I was emancipated, I think, at 16 years old. Even though I was 16, I became an adult, right? So I had the right to take care of myself. So he didn't allow her to lock me up, y'all. Okay? So I told my Uncle Bud what had happened, and my Uncle Bud said, well, you come on over to my house and you can stay with me, right? Just like that. Just like that. And at my Uncle Bud's house, he treated me like a young man. He asked me my opinion when he needed to fix something. He would say, well, listen, let's go. He said, the tub is stopped up. Let's go fix it. So we go fix the tub, right? But he'd ask me step by step, what do we do next? What should we do next? What do you think about this problem? That was how he dealt with me. And man, I blossomed. But it was only years later that I realized that that's why he was able to become an officer and go so far in the military, because he could lead men. He didn't care about making himself look good or feel good. He was developing me as a man, right? And so he owned properties and stuff like that, and we would go places, and that's the way he dealt with me. And I blossomed. I blossomed in that, my Uncle Bud. And then unfortunately, he passed away unexpectedly. And he had 3 children who he loved very much. I must have been 18 years old when this happened. He passed away, and then none of my father's people, his brothers, cousins, nobody would take his children in and let them stay. You know, I was only 18. Was I 18 or 20? I don't remember how old I was, but I was just a kid. And I felt so sorry for for his children. I wasn't able to do anything for him because I wasn't established, you know. I wasn't able to do anything for him because I was not established. I didn't have a good job myself. But they let his children, it was terrible what happened to his children, you know, the way they suffered when their dad died. I felt so bad for them, but I never saw my father or his brothers or cousins in the same way again, because they didn't help his children. You know, they were living with friends, and you know, when you're in a situation where you got to struggle, people do bad things, right? Because you're trying to survive, and the trajectory of their lives, they went from being upper middle class children to being basically on the street and living from house to house. And things didn't go well. I don't know how they're doing now, but I felt regret for that and ashamed, because Uncle Bud helped me so much, right? But anyway, so at 17, this Italian guy comes knocking at my door from the JW, right? The JW organization. And he starts talking about the Bible, right? And So I'm interested because by this time, I wanted to get my life together. I didn't want to be like my father. That was my primary goal. I didn't want to be like my father. Deceitful person, you know, one way with you, okay, but then something different with other people. You know, just that negative energy and the whole, I didn't want to be like him. So I started doing the Bible study, right? With the, oh, his name was Joe Tano. His name was Joe Tano. He had a real nice family, real nice wife, real nice children. I remember his daughter was Sarah Tano. I wonder where Sarah is right now. And then at one time I dated Sarah's best friend, who was Celeste Cups. Yeah, I must have been 19, 20. All right. So anyway, that's how I started my Bible study with the JW organization, y'all. Trying not, but I wasn't conscious of not wanting to be around my father. I didn't realize that until a few years ago. Like I started to think about what led me into getting involved with religion. And then, you know, after thinking about that, I realized it was because I didn't want to be like my father. I was trying to be a better person than my father was, right? And that caused me a lot of problems. I should have just tried to be me, right? I should have been trying to be me, but because of the trauma that I experienced from my parents, especially from my father, I was focused on trying not to be like him because I didn't want to hurt people the way he hurt me and the way I saw him hurt other people, right? So I got into religion. So I started studying the Bible, okay? And that's when I really began to develop myself in terms of developing my reading comprehension skills, my analytical skills. And within about 8 months, I got baptized. So in that organization, when you get baptized, you become obligated to live the moral standards that they require, okay, in their doctrine, right? And they can kick you out. They call it disfellowshipping. They can kick you out if you don't, all right? So I quickly developed the reputation of being a person who, for my age, was very knowledgeable and very zealous, okay? So what does that mean? I read all of the books. I read all the old books, looked up every scripture. And I mean all of the books and every scripture. I read it all, okay? And in that process, I really learned how to read, okay? But I was not familiar with etymology. But I could read a paragraph, a whole chapter, and I know exactly what I read, okay? Oh, by the way, I remember, I forgot to say something. So when I was in 12th grade, when I was in 12th grade, I never took, well, up from junior high to 11th grade, I never took those standardized tests seriously. I would put my name on it and I would just write in answers and, you know, turn it in. That's what I did. But in 12th grade, I had this one teacher, this chubby guy, I can't remember his name because he wasn't, I had him, I think, only one semester. Right, I had him one semester. Oh, yeah, no, this is what happened. I remember now. So in 12th grade, my junior high school English teacher, Mrs. Chadoff, started teaching in high school. She started teaching high school English, but she was teaching remedial English. And I think when I got kicked out of school and when I came back, they put me in the remedial English class, right? So Miss Chadoff is there and I'm shocked. I like Miss Chadoff, but Miss Chadoff was a disciplinarian. She didn't play, but she taught you. But she didn't take no stuff in terms of behavior. So we would come, no matter how tough you were or how rebellious you were, you come to Miss Chadoff class, you sit down, and you participate. She was stern, but you could tell, at least me, I could tell she cared about us, right? So I participated. And I had her, that was my junior high English teacher. So in high school, I'm in this remedial class, and I go to her class, and she says, what are you doing here? I said, well, hey, I don't know. This is on my schedule. And she says, well, you don't need this stuff. Why are you here? I said, well, I got expelled, and, I'm coming back. And she said, well, sit down, right? They told me to sit down. So I come to class, I think about a week. And so she says, hey, you don't need this stuff. I'm sending you to have a reading test done. And she said, I want you to take that test. Don't just write in the answers. You take that test. And now get out of here. Right? That's how she was. I really like that lady, Miss Chadoff. I wish I could see her again if she's still alive. So I went, and because she told me to, I took the test. Right? So I tested in first year college English. So I took the results back. They told me to take the results to my guidance counselor. And lo and behold, my guidance counselor was Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson's husband. And so he looks at it, and in his kind of like dry kind of way, he says, you're on college level reading, so we're going to have to put you in an English class that's on your level, and you should go to college, right? He said you should go to college, and I think at that time they had some type of program where high schoolers could take classes in the community college, right? So he told me to think about that, but I should definitely plan on going to college, all right? So, anyway, long story short, let's move forward. So, I read all of these books, and there were some things that I found strange in the older books. Like some of the doctrines in their older books didn't line up with the doctrines that are in their new books. And they called it new life. They would call it new life, right? They got new life. But that always bothered me because, you're prophesying this and prophesying that, but then you turn around, the prophecy doesn't come true, and you come up with something else, and then you call it new life. But I was familiar with the scripture because I had read the whole Bible front to back and understood it by that time. I had read their Bible encyclopedia. At that time it was called it was a blue book, like a baby blue, like a powder blue book called, I think it was called Aid to the Scriptures, or something like that. And then they came out with another one called Insight on the Scriptures, where I read all of that. Okay? And so I said, well, the prophet who says something that's not true is a false prophet. Don't be afraid of him. But I overlooked it. Right? I overlooked it because, see, what y'all have to understand is when you get involved in these religions and you start learning, you get some truth, and because you get that truth, and maybe camaraderie or the hope for camaraderie, people are nice to you in the beginning, helpful to you in the beginning, because they want you to join the religion, right? Which is something that also makes them look good, whether they're aware of that or not. But I'm speaking from my experience, right? So, let me tell y'all. So I let that go because I trusted them. So when you get involved in these religions, people tend to turn off their reason because they establish rapport and trust either with the organization itself, they trust the publications that they're reading, and the people who they come in contact with. Everything seems legit and you say, well, maybe it's me, I don't understand, right? I don't know enough to understand. So you get in a place where you trust and you start letting things go. Well, that's the worst thing that you can do. That is the absolute worst thing you can do. Always, 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 always think for yourself. Don't trust. Ask critical questions and answer them. Answer them through research, evidence, and facts. Not coming from that church or camp, but coming from secular sources outside of there. Never turn off your intellect because you trust. That's a huge mistake. Huge mistake I made. All right, so let's continue. So I trusted, and I'm going to the meetings. I think it was twice a week. Yeah, got to prepare for all the meetings, right? I prepare. So when you're in that organization, on Sunday you got to prepare your watchtower. Okay, back in those days when I was in, the watchtower articles were much longer than they are today, and the font, the paragraphs were more complex, right? And there were more paragraphs, and the questions were more difficult to answer. Okay? But then over the years, they started making it easier. Less paragraph, shorter paragraphs, easier to comprehend, right? And then easier questions to understand and easier questions to answer. So the articles became shorter and less complex, okay? Compared to these days. All right. So anyway, y'all, you got to prepare for that Sunday meeting. You got to prepare for your comments because you do the watchtower study, and then the guy at the podium, he's going to ask people questions. Okay. So you prepare your comments for all of the answers. All right. Some people would prepare an answer for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 questions. My goal was to prepare my answers for all of them. Okay, I didn't accomplish that goal all the time, but that was my target. All right, and then you got the meeting during the week. Okay, and they have this document called Our Kingdom Ministry. You got to read all of the articles, prepare your comments, and then I think every 3 months you'd have a test on what was covered in that material. Okay, so in that organization you got to study. All right. So that's what I did. So within 1 year, I became a full-time minister for them. They used to call it a pioneer. At that time, you had to do 90 hours in the field ministry. So that meant 90 hours going door to door, 90 hours standing on street corners, okay, or doing Bible studies, or however you wanted to do it. So that's how I spent like the next couple years of my life. All right, 90 hours, that was considered full-time. So the cool thing about that was that I met this lady. She had been a full-time minister or a pioneer probably 30 years. What was her name? Mrs. Gordon. Yeah, Miss Gordon. Her son was Mark Gordon. If y'all remember, there was a singing group. Oh, Casanova, I'm at your Casanova. No, me and Casanova ain't never been. Gerald Levert. It was called Levert. There was a singing group called Levert. All right. So Miss Gordon was Mark Gordon's mother in the group Levert, and she was close friends with Gerald. I think it was Gerald and Sean. I didn't really know them well. I saw them a couple times, but we never really talked. But by then, they were off into doing their singing group stuff, right? But Miss Gordon was good friends with Miss Levert, and I didn't really know her that well either. She didn't talk that much, at least to me. But Miss Gordon, she trained me. She trained me on how to be a pioneer, how to be a full-time minister, how to preach and teach, how to go door to door, how to do return, everything that you needed to know. She trained me, Miss Gordon, and she had a daughter named Deborah. I wish I could see Deborah again. Deborah Gordon. Yeah, and but yeah, that's the woman who trained me. By then, I don't know how, she was already an older person, and she used to come pick me up, right? And we would ride around 4, 5, sometimes 10 hours, right? We'd be out doing the field ministry. That was my field ministry partner. And she, you know, she introduced me to everybody, and we had a lot of fun together doing that. A lot of camaraderie. And I learned how to preach and teach, you know, whether on the street corner, door to door. There was a book called the Reasoning from the Scriptures book, a brown book, and it was like a sales pitch. It's like a sales pitch book, and they give you objections, like if someone says this, then you say that. So studied that, mastered it to the best of my ability. Over years and years and years and years and years, I did that. So, you know, you get good. You get good. And I thought I had the truth, right? I thought I had the truth. But I would always wonder why every so often I would see these images of Egypt, pyramids and the sun. And then in the Revelation book, I saw like this picture of the angels in the heavens, and one of them had a claw for a hand, right? Some other weird things that I saw in the pictures, okay? And I'm thinking, well, what the heck is this, right? But then again, I think, okay, maybe I always give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a mistake. And then you look, and all the angels are always white men, or just white people, right? And then you say, okay, well, you know how white people are. So again, you give them the benefit of the doubt, right? All the governing body members were white. So you give them the benefit of the doubt. But then the longer I stayed there, I was in a fairly mixed congregation. But the longer I stayed there, and people got used to me, I started to feel some of that racism, right? You don't want to admit that it's there. And then you say, okay, well, everybody's got their problems. Everybody's trying to work through their own stuff, right? So you just accept it. But the thing that stuck with me most is why do they have this Egyptian stuff in their books? Okay, and there was a film that I saw, the creation film or something like that. It's black and white, and they had the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. Okay, and that bothered me. That really bothered me, right? Why is that there? But I didn't have an answer, and I let it go. Years later, I found out why. Okay? So anyway, I'm going to jump forward. The more I started to get to know the people in that organization, the more I started to realize that they were superficial. Most of them were superficial. They didn't mean anything that they said, right? Everybody's supposed to be trying to be Christ-like, but nobody was really doing it. They talked sweet words, right? But the actions didn't show it, okay? And then you get some mean-spirited stuff, okay? So now, I got kicked out. And then I spent, well, actually, when I got kicked out, I didn't want to go back, right? But then my state of mind was, well, this is all I know. This is the truth, right? The doctrine is the truth, but the way the people behave, hypocritical, and then the elders abusing their power. Y'all know what I mean? Talking abusively to you, and then you accept it because, you know, you're trying to be a part of the organization. You're taught to be humble and all of these, Christ-like, loving, forgiving, and all of these things. So I got to the point where I didn't want to be around the people. I didn't want to go to the meetings, but I kept reading their information, okay? eventually I got to the point where I could no longer read the Watchtower. I could no longer read the other publications. I didn't want to see it, and I felt very uncomfortable with it. Y'all understand me? But I tried to go back. Well, not tried. I went back many times over the years, right? But I didn't feel comfortable anymore. I had a hard time reading their literature, and then I came across a video, y'all. I came across a video about the JW organization having demonic images, hidden images in their literature. And the first time I saw it, I didn't believe it, right? I thought, okay, well, that's just somebody talking, right? But then I started seeing more videos on YouTube about this. So I said, you know what? Let me go check. So I watched the video. I started watching the videos, and then I started to go back and look at the old books that I still had, the old magazines that I still had. And then I said, well, wow, this is true, because I could see these demonic images and sexual images in the pictures in the literature that I had, right? So then I said, you know what? This is probably why I didn't want to pick up their literature anymore, and I didn't want to go to their meetings anymore, but especially why I did not want to read their literature, because subconsciously I saw it, but consciously I was not aware of it, so I rejected it. And y'all, once I saw that, I threw all of that stuff away. I no longer had a guilty conscience, about not associating with them. And so they put a real guilt trip on you. You lose all your friends. I feel sorry for people who grew up in that organization, because if you leave it, or if they kick you out because you're not doing what they think you should do, you lose your whole family. You lose your whole support system. I mean, they won't talk to you. They won't even help you if you need help, right? Your friends reject you. Everybody ostracizes you. So you have no support system. And I've seen people go into early onset schizophrenia, depression, become homeless, right? All of the worst things you can imagine, I've seen happen to people in that organization if you ever decide you're going to leave, right? Or if you're not doing what they want you to do and they kick you out. The whole floor, the whole support system, even a mother and her son, a father and his son or daughter, they're going to kick you out of the house. All right? Or they're going to, if they don't do that, they're going to stop talking to you. Everybody. The family dynamic changes, right? But anyway, I feel sorry for those people. Yeah, it's really sad. They destroy families. I could never see that being in that organization, but being outside of it and then studying their literature as nothing but literature. And you see the hypocrisy, you see the Egyptology, you see the Egyptology in it, you see the spiritism in it. They're such hypocrites. And then, so after I saw all of this stuff, I break away from it. Then I started to see the Masonic, the secret society influence in it. Like, for example, the design specifically of one of their buildings. I think it's in Europe. I can't remember which one. But there's so much evidence of their secret society affiliation that once you get out of it and you start to search their, and now from what I understand, they've been destroying their old literature, right? Because a lot of people have started to go back and check it, and they're realizing that, it's just straight hypocrisy, straight lies. And then I start hearing about the things that they invested their money in, their association with the United Nations, all of these things, right? You know, what hypocrites. But anyway, so as a Christian, in terms of my personality, I went from being a person who would fight. I had no problems with people. Once I got the reputation of being a fighter, I had no problems with people. But in Christianity, when I began to do this whole be Christ-like, passive type of personality, I had nothing but problems with people at that point. Nothing but problems with people. People would do nasty things, okay? They knew that I wasn't going to defend myself. They knew I was an easy target. This is family and friends. And so they began to disrespect you and take you for granted. And I dealt with that for decades. Decades, y'all. Decades. My major problem was I did not develop the ability to defend myself without violence. I didn't develop the ability to defend myself without violence. Now, am I saying defend myself by playing tit for tat? You do this, I'm gonna do that. No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you do something shady to me, I'm coming back at you with law. You understand me? I'm gonna file suit against you. I didn't develop that ability, and that was a problem. See, you don't have to argue and fight with people, okay? You don't have to argue and fight with people. And when people do things that are nasty to you, you don't have to be Christ-like and continue doing the good that you've been doing to them. No, because you make yourself an easy target. Somebody treats you bad, or they don't appreciate you, okay, let them know. You don't have to say anything nasty to them. You can let them know by your body language to stop effing with you, and you're not going to take no BS from them, all right? Okay? But you got to learn how to defend yourself. You have to learn how to defend yourself. So you need to learn law. You need to learn law, and you need to get out of this be Christ-like thing, this loving thing, because you just make yourself an easy target. You know, even a poodle, if it sees you're afraid, or they think you're afraid, or that they can just run over you, even that poodle is going to start acting like a tiger towards you. All right? And this is the problem with Christianity, okay? Teaching you to be Christ-like. That's why you can't get reparations. That's why the police beat you and shoot you in the street. It's free. You ain't going to do nothing back. They don't have to pay a price. What you going to do? Get on the TV and cry? Get on TV and cry? And say, I forgive you for shooting my son down or my daughter down in the street? That's free. No consequence for them. So what? That's motivating them to do it again. All right? But if it wasn't free, you take one of mine, I'm taking 100 of yours, well then that type of behavior would stop immediately. Huh? It would stop immediately. But it is what it is, y'all. So in Christianity, it was a total waste of time. I degressed instead of progressed, you know. Like I said, I went from a person who people wouldn't think about crossing me or treating me bad, to a person who people didn't, you know, I was an easy target. So how does that help you in life? How does that help you in life? Right? But were there some positive things that I got out of it? Yes, there were. Right? That's how I got turned back onto academics. That's how I got comfortable public speaking and teaching. Okay? So it was some positive things. Did I develop any true friendships? No. Well, Miss Gordon, I think with Miss Gordon, that was a true friendship. Right? But that was when I first got in and for those first couple years. But then after that, I never developed any true friendship. And then I remember the last congregation I was going to, y'all, check this out. I was traveling 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours to get to this place. Okay, 2.5, 3 hours once a week to get here. And I had this, one of the governing body members was in that congregation. This was in the Philippines, okay? One of the governing body members. And this dude, when I saw him for the first time, my first thought was that this dude looks like a pedophile. Now, I don't know him. I don't know if that's true, but that was my intuition. He's a pedophile, and I thought he looks like a racist. He looks like a guy from the 1950s who's a racist and a pedophile. So I didn't judge him, but that was my first thought. And so, I'm coming back, and there was I think this guy was a circuit overseer, and he was a good guy. He was a hybrid, but he was a good guy. He was a redhead hybrid. Good guy. And he liked me very much. And he was like, he was like, you just have to come back, right? He said, I can see that, your lifestyle is, just come back, right? I'll set the meetings up. And I told him, no, I really don't want to, but he kept on encouraging me. So he set this meeting up about me coming back. So I went to that meeting, and then this dude from the governing body who was from the U.S. that I was just talking to y'all about, he's in the meeting. And this dude starts talking to me like a bully, okay? And I realized that he was trying to make an impression. He was from the U.S., born and raised, okay? The other people in the meeting were from Philippines, born and raised. They knew nothing about our history or culture, right? So this dude is talking to me, bullying me, right? And I realized, okay, so he's talking to them and not me. He's trying to make an impression on them and not me. So, like an idiot, I sat there and I listened and I accepted it, okay? And I remember he says, you gotta really, really want this. As if to say to me, I don't really want it, right? But what he was saying to them is that I really, really want it, right? He was interested in drawing attention to himself, getting praise. So I let it go, okay? I was so pissed off. But see, this is what Christianity does to you. I should have told his ass off, right? And I should have called him out, but I didn't, okay? But that's what Christianity does to you. You become a floor mat. You become a floor mat, okay? So, anyway, so I had this girlfriend that I broke up with. And so she invited me to her house. One thing led to another. And by this time, because of her association with me, she had started studying the Bible with the same organization. So it appears that she told them some things that had happened between us, but she didn't tell them the whole story. All right, she wanted me to take her back to the U.S., and I told her, no, I'm not going back to the U.S. So some people are vindictive, and she says some things to me, and then that whole she says some things to the congregation. That whole congregation turned against me. They didn't ask me any questions, but I could tell when I walked in there that there was a problem, and they were ostracizing me. So of course you put two and two together, right? I knew what it was, but the fact that they ostracized me and nobody ever came to say anything about me, came to say anything to me, and then I would look around and people would be staring at me, right? And I went through this for about 2 months, and then finally I said, you know what? I'm not gonna let these people do me like this anymore, and I'm not gonna put myself through it. So I stopped going. All right. That was I don't know what year, that was a long time ago. I don't know what year that was, But that's when I was convinced that, you know what, these people are full of BS, okay, hypocrites, self-righteous. They don't care anything about me and the other people, right? Just self-righteousness. And I left. That was at the point, y'all, where I left, but I continued reading their literature. Then I got to the point where I couldn't even read the literature. And as I said, I found out why, because it's full of spiritistic, demonic images, okay? Y'all don't believe me, or if you do believe me, check it for yourself. Just check YouTube, right? Or Google search demonic images in JW literature, or something like that. Or witchcraft or spiritism, or and then it was a video, y'all. It was a hybrid. It was a hybrid, and she had saw the same videos that I'm talking about, and she did a video, YouTube live. I think it was it was a video, and she says, "Well, I don't believe this is true, but I'm gonna check it." So she got one of the magazines. And then she got a mirror, and she held the mirror at a 90-degree angle to see if that demonic image was there. And she saw it, and she actually fell down. She was so shocked, she fell down, and she started hollering and screaming. Right? She started hollering and screaming because she couldn't believe what she saw. All right? And that was that made an impression on me. So of course I went and I did the same thing. Okay, I did it and I saw the same thing. All right. There's a name for that type of art. I don't remember what it was, but I saw those, if you get one of their images or magazine covers, hold a mirror at a 90-degree angle, put it on the surface of the magazine and hold it at a 90-degree angle. That means stand it straight up. And then you'll see the demon pop out. You'll see the demon on the one on the magazine and then one on the mirror. You'll see the demon. Okay. Then there's sexual stuff. And after that, I left that, right? And then shortly after that, I found out that the Christ figure, JC, never existed. Never existed, you know, in real life, at least in the way that's presented in the New Testament or the Gospels. He never existed. Not a real person. Of course, and if he's not a real person, then that means that the New Testament, right, is a hoax. The New Testament is a hoax, and therefore, all of Christianity is a hoax. So that's my story. I took a lot of losses, y'all, in Christianity. Okay, I was naive. I got taken advantage of by people in the organization, my family, and people that I interacted with on a daily basis. Okay? I took a lot of losses. So what was the lesson that I had to learn in all of this? One, when I look back, I realized that, hold on, y'all, give me a second. Yo. You come sit down. Come sit down. When I look back, I realized it's YouTube Live. You want to sell me a ticket? Hold on, y'all. Hold on. You keep it. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You're welcome. All right, y'all. So first thing, in life you need to focus on being you. If someone has been so negative and caused so much trauma in your life that the focus of your life becomes avoiding being like them, you're making a mistake. Because in life, you have to be you. Okay, so my journey to discover who I am was taken off of course. I was taken off of that course, right? Or that journey became first, becoming or wasting time, energy, and effort on trying not to be somebody who wasn't good to me and who I didn't like, and who didn't like me, right? Because he did some dirty, rotten stuff to me in my life, my father, right? Tried to have me locked up twice, but he would do it with a smile, okay? Do it with a smile and behind my back, okay? But then later, one time he tried to have me locked up. I hired a lawyer. My lawyer didn't tell me it was him who caused me to have the problem that I had. But my lawyer asked me, what kind of relationship do you have with your father? And that was enough for me to understand what he was telling me. Okay? All right? Because had it not been for him, I wouldn't have had the problem. I wouldn't have caught the case. Right? Had it not been me trusting and listening to my father. Okay? Who told me to write a police report? The lawyer told me if I had not written the police report, there would have never been a case. Okay? And then the second time, he did that to me a second time. Right? But he would do it in such a way where he's pretending like he's trying to help you. Okay? But he was really, really trying to hurt me. All right? So this is a good cop, bad cop. All right? But that's his character. And, you know, I've learned to just accept him for who he is, right? That's who he is. Ain't no need for me to be mad about it, right? I just stay the hell away from him. You know what I mean? No need for me to be mad. Past is the past. That's who he is. Hey, I don't even know if the man is alive or dead right now, and don't really care. Because an enemy makes himself an enemy, right? Enemies make themselves enemy through their actions, all right? And I wish I could remember the name of, there's a name for parents who intentionally harm their children, but I don't remember the name. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. I want to order something else. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, I'm back. Here's my black cafe. I gotta stop drinking so much of this. No sugar, right? So if you don't put sugar and cream in it, or sugar and milk in it, coffee can be healthy if it's a non-hybrid seed. Unfortunately, I don't know if these are hybrid seeds or not. But a non-hybrid seed, non-hybrid coffee is an herb, right? It's an herb, so it's healthy for you. The problem is if it's hybrid. The problem if it's hybrid, it's gonna be acidic, right? If it's natural, it's gonna be alkaline. Okay? I don't know why these coffee shops don't advertise that or promote that about their coffee. But let me go back to this. So I spent about 30 years of my life trying not to be like my father. Y'all understand what I'm saying? I wasn't aware of it. I was not aware of it until a couple years ago. Or I don't know exactly the time. But fairly recently I realized this. I spent all that time trying not to be like him. Trying to be a good person. Okay? And so in other words, I went from one extreme to the other. Right? And then only after, so many of y'all might know that I'm a medical doctor. But during my time when I was in medicine and doing that kind of thing, I had a lot of experience with people who have different types of mental illnesses. Okay, I used to want to be a psychiatrist until I started doing training in psychiatry, especially forensic psychiatry. And, well, long story short, I had some experience with people who have depression, schizophrenia, drug addicts who lose their mind. They begin to hallucinate. They start seeing things and hearing things that are not there, hearing voices saying, for example, it'll say K-I-L-L, your neighbor, or your mother, or your child, right? And then one day they act on it. They'll get like a 2x4 or a bola, something like a machete, and they'll beat or hack away their child, their mother, or their neighbor. Right? Wind up in a mental health hospital that's like a prison. Okay? So I spent some time with patients in that environment. Okay? And some of my favorite people were psychiatrists. And I learned a lot from them, right? So when I went back to the States and I got to observe my father, I realized that he was a characteristic narcissist, a noble narcissist. For example, these types of narcissists, they want you to think they're do-gooders. These are the kind of people who you'll find in nonprofit organizations. These are the type of people who will who do things to develop a relationship, an image or reputation rather, of helping everybody, right? Of helping everybody, okay? But the people who are closest to them, they treat like SHIT. They're a completely different person. Y'all understand? Completely different person. So for example, let's say, most people are familiar with, let's say, with the Goodwill, right? The Goodwill nonprofit organization. I'm only using this because most people know it. Goodwill, okay? The executives at Goodwill, on camera and in public, they're helping. They seem like they're the kindest, nicest people in the world, right? They're doing this and they're doing that, but to the people who work under them or to the person who works closest to them, they treat them like SHIT. They're a tyrant. Okay, so this is a noble narcissist, and that's how my father was or is. I don't know if he's alive. And if you become the target of their insecurity, then they're going to do everything in their power, as long as they live, to destroy your image and your reputation. So what's going on with that? So these narcissists, they want to be the center of attention. right? They want to be the expert on everything, even though they have no experience, no training, nor knowledge of. They're going to force themselves to be the expert, okay? They need to be the center of attention. They wear the best clothes. They wear the best jewelry, right? And all eyes has to be on them at all times. So if you happen to be or they want to be what? They want to be the smartest person in the room, the most informed person in the room. So if you happen to be a person who they feel threatened by, they feel like people are looking at you instead of them, best thing to do is run the other way, whether it's your mother, your father. If you're a son or a daughter, if it's your mother or a father, best thing to do is run the other way. Because there's nothing you can do to prevent them from seeking to destroy you. Destroy you financially, destroy your reputation, destroy your image, and the worst case, you know, the worst thing, that they're capable of doing it because they have no empathy. They have no empathy whatsoever. And every time they see you, every time they hear your name, it makes them feel everything that they are not, that they're so afraid that somebody else, that other people might see in them, right? They're so afraid that people are going to see their inadequacies, their deficiencies. These are very insecure people. And they don't feel anything for you if you become the target who makes them or reminds them of what they're not. They will destroy you. And they'll use other people. The noble narcissist, well, almost all narcissists will use other people to do it. Okay, so y'all go back and research flying monkeys. Go back and research the golden child. The golden child is a family, is a child who can do no wrong, right? It might be one or two of them. The narcissist will pit the children in the family against each other. And they'll create a situation where everybody in the family is running to them. They're the center of attention. All the children are fighting with each other. They don't get along. So if you see a family where the children, none of the children get along with them, with each other, suspect that the parent or parents are narcissists. Okay? So when I was coming up, my focus was mainly staying out of my father's way, avoiding conflict, avoiding being disrespected, humiliated, finding a way to just get along. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Finding a way just to have peace. And then my solution to just have peace, of mind, and to make it through each day safely without getting a beating, was simply don't say nothing, get away, right? Whatever he asked me to do it. Don't say a word. Do it, but try not to be seen. Avoid the confrontation, right? So when I went into Christianity, y'all see how toxic that is now, right? I went into Christianity with the mindset of avoiding confrontation. Okay? Just do whatever you got to do to get along. And it took me decades to get out of that mindset, right? To get out of that mindset. First, I had to become aware that that was my strategy. Okay? Avoid conflict, do whatever you got to do to get along. Okay? Let people do whatever they're going to do. Don't say nothing. Just get along. So Christianity fit right in with what I had been conditioned for the person I had learned to be as a survival strategy, right? And then I learned, so I got married, right? And let me rephrase that. So the women in my life, I can look back on, and I know that they had personalities like my father. So I had been programmed. Through my experience growing up with my siblings. I had to always avoid confrontation with my siblings because I knew from experience that I could never win and my father was going to take their side. So I just had to put up with anything they did, accept it, and keep going, right? And then with my father, same thing. I had to do everything I could to avoid confrontation with him, and he was always trying to create a confrontation to find an excuse to do something harmful to me. All right? So what am I trying to say? A child who grows up in a healthy family, and the mother, the father, they acknowledge that he's a person, they're nurturing, they respect him or her, they respect him or her, they use kind, compassionate language toward the child, and they try to build the self-esteem instead of constantly belittling the child, pointing out problems or things that you're not good at. You know how black people are, y'all. You know how most of them are. But a child who grows up in a nurturing environment is going to have a different view of himself, and they're going to expect for people to treat them the way their parents treated them. And if someone treats them with disrespect, if someone treats them in such a way where they feel threatened or belittled, their alarms are going to go off, and they're going to say, wait a minute, I don't want to deal with this person no more. I'm leaving, I'm gone. I don't want to be friends with you no more. I'm definitely not going to be in a relationship with you, right? But in my case, and people like me growing up in that extremely toxic, negative environment, when I came across people like that, I was already used to it. The alarms to run didn't go off. I had already built in strategies, right, to cope with people like that. So I just avoid the conflict, right? And that was what was normal, because I did everything to avoid conflict, and because I'm so easy to get along with, right? And I try to work things out. Some of the worst kind of people, or people who have my father's personality, were attracted to me, right? Because they can do whatever, they could be themselves, and I'm still there. You know, maybe you find yourself in the same situation, right? You attract these harmful people who don't respect you, who talk to you any kind of way, or who stab you in the back, who are not there for you if you should ever need them. These are the people who you're surrounded with. Y'all understand me? Well, it's not because other people don't want to be around you. That's not why. It's because you've learned strategies in your childhood on how to be safe with these people, and you're giving them your time, and you only got 24 hours in a day. Y'all follow me? So now it's easy for them to be with you and abuse you. And it's easy for you because that's all you're used to. And you already got those strategies in place, even though it's not what you want. Y'all understand me? So the people who are good to you, you may even be in a place where you're not attracted to them because they're good to you, right? Or you don't notice them because they're good to you. They respect you. They don't disrespect you, right? So I had to go through that whole process. And then finally, thankfully, I became aware of it. Awareness is what? Maybe 80-90% curative. So I noticed that the women in my life were toxic, right? The women who I had a significant relationship with in my life, they were toxic. toxic like my father. Why? Because when I met these people, there was no alarms that went off that said run. Okay? No alarm that went off and said run. And for them, I was the guy who they can do some dirty, nasty stuff to, and I would tolerate it. So they stay with me because nobody else would tolerate that, right? Unless you come from that type of family structure. Y'all see? So it's like a lock and key. They're abusive, and you're the kind of person who's what? You're going to try to get along at all costs. So now, since I've been aware of that, I'm not like that. Right? I don't attract those kind of women anymore because I don't take that type of behavior anymore because I'm aware. But it's difficult for a lot of people to say, especially publicly, to say who their father or mother really is as a person. Maybe you're ashamed to say it, right? Because you feel maybe you still have that father-son, mother-daughter relationship, and you're afraid to say that person treated you like an enemy, right? And you got a lot of people, parents push them into drug abuse. You know? In fact, every one of the children that my mother raised, my siblings that my mother raised, all of them became drug addicts. All of them. They became drug addicts. One of my brothers underwent early onset schizophrenia. Every last one of them became a drug addict. Okay? My brother before he passed away told me, my brother had kidney failure when he was about 18 years old. Right? Now my brother always had problems with my father. My father did my brother really, really wrong. Really wrong. I feel sorry for him. But by the time my brother turned 18 years old, he had already had kidney failure. Okay? So he spent, 30-something years on dialysis. Right? And then when I saw my brother again, when I went back to the States, he told me, he says, you know what, man? He says, my nephrologist, that's a kidney doctor, was asking, I was talking with my nephrologist, and, he was asking me what happened to me and what my life was like. And then he said, you know what, man? He said, he told me that, he said, well, you know what? The reason why the most likely reason why you probably had kidney failure is because of high blood pressure that you got from the stress of dealing with your father. That's what raised your blood pressure and blew out your kidneys. Let me repeat that to y'all. Those of you who are stressing your babies out. And I know this is true, right? Because high blood pressure will blow your kidneys out. You just don't expect that to happen to a child. Let me say it again. The kidney doctor, my brother's kidney doctor told my brother, as they were talking, that the most likely reason why he had kidney failure at 18 or was it 18, 19, however old we were kids. The most likely reason he had kidney failure is because of the stress that my father put him under through his narcissistic personality and beatings. Stressed my brother out, and my brother had kidney failure. All right? So what am I trying to say to you? I'm trying to say that if you're a narcissist, maybe you should, and you're aware of it, maybe you should not have custody of your children, because you're going to destroy them. Okay? Especially if one of those children you're jealous of. And y'all understand this, y'all. A narcissist will become jealous of a child when they're 5 years old. It's something in the child that narcissist sees, that narcissistic parent sees, and they feel threatened and insecure by it. They may see that child sees them for who they really are. And then that narcissist begins to abuse that child. This is real stuff, y'all. That narcissist will emotionally or physically abuse that child simply because they feel like that narcissist can see that they are not perfect, that they are not the person who they try to teach other people that they really are. All right? And me personally, that's what I think happened to my brother. All right? So my brother suffered from 18 or 19 years old, going to dialysis 2-3 times a week, y'all. His friends, dying next to him. Right? A lot of people die, have a heart attack while they're getting dialysis. He's experienced all of that. Okay? But he suffered. So if you are abusing your child, let the mother or the father have custody of the child. All right? Don't do that to your child. Okay? And if you're a young person and you have a narcissistic parent, right? Always keeping you in a situation where you're stressed the hell out. You know something is wrong, but you don't really know what's wrong, but you know that your parent is doing you wrong. Man, I don't really know what to tell you other than to try to get into the other parent's house or live with a family member. But y'all, this stuff is real, okay? The black culture is extremely toxic by design. All right? So you can destroy your child's life, y'all. Okay? Through your selfish insecurity. And I'm not talking in a derogatory way about narcissists. I'm talking, y'all, I'm just telling you what it is. A narcissist person feels no empathy for the target who when they look at makes them feel insecure, who they think is shining brighter than they are. My father really didn't start to do the extreme stuff to me until I started succeeding in life. And believe it or not, it started when I graduated from high school. All right, it started when I graduated from high school. So my father owned the bar. Now I'm telling y'all who I am in my life in Christianity. How it shaped me to become the man I am now. My father owned the bar. He has a brother, okay? He and his brother owned the bar. So my cousin, my father's brother, they owned the bar together. He worked at the bar, and he was working as a manager, okay? My father offered me to work at the bar, and he wanted me to clean it up, right? So I had to clean it up. And then eventually I got to the point where I said, why should I be the one who has to clean up all of this filth, but then my cousin gets to be a manager? Y'all understand what I'm saying to you? And then eventually, because he felt embarrassed because other people saw, right? Other people saw what he was doing to me and it was wrong. He didn't do it for me. He did it to make himself look good. Y'all understand me? A narcissist never does anything out of the goodness of their heart. A narcissist does everything for themselves to make themselves look better in other people's eyes. Okay? That's what's motivating a narcissist. They feel nothing. They feel nothing for nobody else. They don't have empathy. Okay? They can hurt you and they'll sleep well at night because they hurt you. They can destroy your reputation and they sleep very good at night because they destroyed you. Right? In their minds, they're successful because they conquered you. Why? Because that's their objective, is to make you look like a terrible person, to make you fail so that the attention comes back on them. Y'all understand? I know it sounds crazy, but this is the personality of a narcissist. And so how does a narcissist become a narcissist? Typically it's through abandonment and abuse. Abuse can be physical, verbal, emotional, so on and so forth. Trauma, all right? But it is what it is, y'all, all right? So be aware. So when I saw what happened to my brother, him having to go on the dialysis machine and how he suffered and how my father used to talk trash about my brother in a negative way around me, criticizing my brother about what he wasn't doing for himself. And I was just disgusted with my father, because what he was really doing is saying, I'm so great, look at me compared to your brother. That's what he was really saying, right? He was inferring it, right? He was inferring it. So, but I was thinking, why would you talk so bad about my brother? Your son, first of all, he's your son. Second of all, think about the quality of his life and how it feels to be sick, okay? How it feels to be sick and how it feels to have to go to dialysis 2-3 times a week. How it feels to not be able to go drink with your buddies, go hang out with your buddies like you see everybody else doing because you got to go to dialysis, okay? Or because if you drink, you can't, it's going to affect you. You're going to carry that toxicity in you until you go have your dialysis, right? Why not think about that? Why not talk about how strong he is, how brave he is, how courageous he is, for all the good things that he was doing? But it was always some negative stuff about my brother or my sisters. That was the only conversation he would have with me. Talking about other people, belittling other people. Other than that, we really didn't talk at all. Okay? And when he talked like that, I would just listen, because my whole thing with my father was avoid the confrontation, because he was like a slick, deceitful, sneaky person. Yeah, that's a sneaky person, right? He'll try to walk you into something and then ambush you. Sneaky like that, all right? But a lot of y'all are afraid to admit or to tell who your parents really are, okay? But you have to deal with that. Same way I had to deal with it. So this is the mindset I had when I was in Christianity, okay? And I was a full-time minister much of that time. And then when I left it, I was still devoted to it, teaching other people, even though I wasn't going to their meetings, still teaching other people, still talking to other people about it, right? Still praying to the deity, still living my life the same way I would have lived it, following all of the moral standards. The only thing I wasn't doing was going to the meetings. All right? And then I began to realize that this whole thing about faith was garbage. Let me tell y'all my experience with the Tetragrammaton, how I realized that the Tetragrammaton is a demon. All right? Let me tell you how I realized that the Tetragrammaton is a demon. So, when I'm in the Philippines, I have foreigner problems. Okay? Now, one thing y'all should note is that when you go to a foreign country, especially Southeast Asia, their system is a system of bullying. Okay? A system of bullying. They'll bully you. All right? This is in Southeast Asia. Make no mistake about it. Yeah, the people are short. Some of them are short as children. They seem so nice. A lot of them very polite. But it's a system of bullying. All right? So, over there, I have problems that foreigners have. Okay? And if you're ever in a situation where you need something from them, there's going to be some bullying and arm twisting. Okay? Some bullying and arm twisting. And this is how I learned how to defend myself. All right? Because at that point, I was like, I'll be damned if I'm going to let you bully me and twist my arm to do something I don't want to do or to extract money from me. Right? So anyway, long story short, I start praying to the deity more intensely. This is the Tetragrammaton through JC's name. All right? So I'm praying about the problems that I'm having, asking for help, solution, basically looking to be saved. All right, y'all? Now, there were things that I prayed about that only the deity knew. To make a long story short, I began to realize that the deity was playing games with me. Okay? Nobody knew the things that I was asking, so sometimes a prayer would be answered and then it would be taken away. All right? And I would be worse off after it was taken away than I was before it was taken away, y'all. Y'all follow me? And I began to realize that these conversations that I'm having with this deity, only the deity knows about. Kate, there's nobody else who knows what I'm talking about who can make these things go wrong for me. I don't know if y'all can understand me. So I began to question whether the deity was really the creator. Why would the creator play jokes on me? Why would the creator put me in a situation where I had to suffer and then answer a prayer and then take it away from me within a week or two? It's like they effing with me, right? It's like the deity was effing with me, having fun at my expense. You understand what I'm saying? Like, look at you, you're a fool. You're an idiot, and I'm gonna make fun. I'm gonna have fun with you at your expense, okay? Sadistic type of stuff. All right, so when I became aware of it, I was shocked. And so for about the next 2 or 3 months, I paid attention, real close attention. And then I finally came to the conclusion that the Tetragrammaton deity is a demon, based upon observation of that deity's activity in my life. Understand me? Now, I relate that to Abraham's experience where he began to question the deity. The same way I began to question the deity. I began to question the deity. To doubt. See, these are asking what? Critical questions. Y'all go back and read the story about Abraham and how he questions his father's idols. I questioned, and I sought, and I got answers. And then I was mentally liberated. Mentally liberated from my bondage to that deity. And the best way I can relate it to you is to go read the story about Abraham. All right? And ever since then, my life has been wonderful. I wake up in the morning. I have downloads. I don't know where they come from. I have this special gift with Ibaryath. I have no idea where it comes from. I never even liked language. Let me tell y'all. In high school, 10th grade, I had to take Greek. I hated Greek. Just barely passed. I had to take Spanish. I hated Spanish. I just barely passed. In college, I had to take Spanish. I hated Spanish, and I just barely passed. In fact, I think I got a C in Spanish, and I was not able to get, I think it was the honor roll. I wasn't able to get on the honor roll because I had a C on my transcript. Okay? I graduated, magna cum laude from college. I don't remember. That's been so long ago, but I think that's what it was. And I remember that I couldn't become an honor roll student because of that C that I got in Spanish. I went to medical school. I had to study Latin. I just barely passed Latin. I was not interested in language. It was the most boring thing to me that I could ever imagine. I hated it. In fact, my buddy Mike, it was my buddy Mike who helped me pass Latin in medical school. Otherwise, I would have failed. Actually, also my buddy Mike helped me pass my biochemistry lab course. I was horrible in the lab, the biochemistry lab. I was horrible using the instrumentation. I was horrible doing the instruments. So shout out to my buddy Mike who helped me pass my biochemistry lab class and who helped me pass my Latin class. Shout out to you, my brother. I appreciate you so much, man. Yeah. And then here I am, lo and behold, teaching Ancient Ibaryath, and I enjoy it. But let me tell y'all something. When I was 21, 22 years old, I already knew that I would translate the Bible. I already knew it. I wanted to do it, but I didn't. Of course, I said my thought was one day I'm going to translate or be able to translate the original Hebrew into English. I knew it when I was 21 or 22 years old. I knew it. I didn't know how I would do it, and I didn't know when I would do it, but it was already in my consciousness that I would do it. And then here I am. Here I is, y'all. See me? Here I am. I don't know how it happened, why it happened, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Not only do I enjoy it, it's easy. It's easy for me. And other people are telling me for them it's difficult or confusing. But for me, it's like walking. It's like walking. It's like walking. And I guess I see things that other people don't see. You know? I guess I see things that other people don't see when they look at the page. So what I'm trying to say to you is that when you break the God spell, when you come out of mental bondage to JC, the Christ figure, and the Tetragrammaton, I don't care how you pronounce his name, the Tetragrammaton is still the Tetragrammaton. Okay? The Tetragrammaton is still the Tetragrammaton. Until you come out from under those deities' influence, you will have demonic influence in your life. What do we call that? We call that the punishments, the curses, the beatdown, the poverty, either the poverty in fiat, the poverty in money, the poverty in personal relationships. You'll be what? Always seeking but never finding. You can have a good job. You can have plenty fiat, plenty money, big house. But you're going to be what? You're going to be what? The problems in your life are going to make that money something that don't even make you happy. You're going to have problems with what? It's going to be something. It could be your children. Your children might get on drugs. Right? Your children might be total F-ups. Your personal life may be totally destroyed, and your relationships may be totally destroyed. Right? One way or another, the curse is going to follow you if you're Yasharala. Don't take my word for it. Look at your life and look at the lives of the people you know best. All right? Your parents, your siblings, your best friends over the years. Look at it. Look at it and be honest. All right? So if you don't escape the influence of those deities, you're going to keep getting the punishments that you've been getting. All right? Money don't make you happy. You can believe that. Money does not make you happy. Maybe you're paying for it. Maybe your curses are coming in the form of chronic illnesses. Y'all know that's one of the curses? Chronic illnesses? Yeah, Zion Law School scholars know it because they actually saw it. They actually saw it. In the original language. They saw it. And if you were not in those classes, you don't know. You only know what somebody told you. Because it's not written in English that way. Okay? But here I am. Here I am. Full-time, teaching the original language that the Hebrew or the Hebrew Bible let's say Old Testament, that the Old Testament was written in. Here I am teaching it. Why is it that I'm the one who gets to do that work? I'm going to say chosen. Why have I been the one chosen to do that work? I've written books on the topic, many. Okay. Why is it me who's doing this work? Why am I the only one who's writing original books on the topic? Now, y'all know Pastor Richardson Kelly, or Kelly Richardson. I got to ask that brother what's his first name. Is it Kelly? I think his first name is Kelly. Actually, Dr. Kelly Richardson. He teaches Ibaryath on his channel. Right? He teaches it. Okay? So I can't say I'm the only one. But my question is, how do I want to say this? I'm relating my experience in Christianity, my hardships, the personal development path that I took to find me and the need for me to be myself. The need for me to be myself instead of trying to avoid being like somebody else, right? Be myself. Okay, y'all should be able to connect that with nationality, right? You should be able to connect that with nationality. And then my exit from Christianity, which I told y'all, which I said earlier, it was the same as what Abraham had when he questioned his father's deities. And then that led to Abraham having a relationship with the Most High. Right? Isn't that what happened with Abraham? It was after Abraham questioned using what? Critical questioning or criticism. And then Moses came up with answers that says, no, the moon can't be the Most High, the Creator. The sun can't be the Most High, the Creator. All of his father's idols can't be the Most High or the Creator. And for all the reasons that he came up with. And then it was at that point that that Abraham was given that promise. All right. Now, I used to teach this. I don't talk about it really anymore. But it was at that climactic point that the Most High chose Abraham. And I think it was because of everything. I wasn't there. But I think it was because Abraham began to question. And he eliminated all those deities. All right, as being the Most High. And so therefore, really good things happened to him. Right? That came straight from the Most High. And I'll tell y'all with sincerity, I think that's what happened with me. Okay? I believe that's what happened with me. Because I never had a desire to do anything with language. And I'm not even getting into all of the things that happened to me when I tried to avoid doing this, but that pushed me into it, okay, which is why I stayed in it. I haven't mentioned those things. But anyway, y'all, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. This went way longer than I had anticipated. Y'all see I kind of ramble and talk too much? But that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I no longer have any friends or relationships with anybody in the religion that I came out of. Those were superficial friendships. All of those friends turned out to not be friends, real friends, true friends, okay? So I have no friendships, no relations with them. I no longer feel any type of guilt trip about not being a part of that organization. I've totally cut myself off from it emotionally. There's no more connection. I'm so happy to say that. Now, let me say this. Every now and then, I like to use a curse word. Because I spent decades always watching what I said, because I didn't want to say anything in an offensive way, and I definitely didn't want to use a curse word, even though I may have felt like using one. Okay, so now every now and then I use a curse word to remind me that I'm no longer in Christianity, and I can say whatever the hell I want to say. Y'all follow me? Because cursing somebody is not using a word like hell or DAM or BITCH. If I don't use this kind of language, it's because I don't use it. Or it's because I don't want to offend people, because people are still in the Christian mindset, y'all. They think that using that kind of language is condemned in the Bible. They don't know what it means to curse. You see, so you're almost dealing with children. Right? So you have to be careful what you say, because you might offend them, and then they're turned off, right? Because you're almost dealing with children. They don't know what it means to curse. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Thank you for supporting the Streaming 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe now. It's one of the most powerful things you can do in a positive way for your life. All right, that's going to help you get back on track. All right, that's going to help you break the gospel. Everything you need to know is in that introductory level course, 101 Ancient Ibaryath. All right, so go get it. There's no contract. It's almost free, very affordable. Not because it's not worth it, but because I want everybody, regardless of what country you are in the world, you're able to afford it. All right. So y'all are invited to come observe our 506 Curses course. That's a live online course every Saturday at 10 a.m. You can come for free. Won't cost you anything. All right. You can experience it, the content, and our scholars. All right. You can participate, the whole 9 yards, learn, and it's going to be transformational. I can assure you that. If you want to enroll, of course, there is a tuition fee, right? But you come and you experience it first, right? You can come and experience it first. Make sure you read the description of the course. All the links to our books that we're offering on this channel are in the description area of this video. So if you want to support us, the most powerful thing you can do is purchase our books, all right? Powerful for you, because this is going to help you to reclaim your heritage, which is the Ancient Ibaryath, the Canaanite, Phoenician family of languages. All right, y'all? The scripts are ancient, Paleo, and late. All right, so this is going to help you reclaim your heritage. Language is a natural law. Linguistics is a natural law, right? Language carries information. Consciousness is information, right? Consciousness is information. Okay? Consciousness is information. Information, language, linguistics. Okay? These things matter. They matter. The most important thing you can do, is return to the Most High by what? Returning to nature. Returning to nature. The Most High is what? His instructions, His laws are at their essence natural law. Okay, Jeremiah 8, verse 8. Go look that up. Ancient Ibaryath. All right? You must learn. Language is nature. Okay? All right, so if you want to support with the cash donation, either one time or recurring, you can do that. Our cash app is $DrYasapa, $DrYasapa, or cashapp.me/Zion Law School. Or I think on the website zionlawschool.org, there's a place where, look at one of the tabs, y'all. Y'all might want to do it this way. It's something like membership, or if not membership, support. Maybe it's support DrYasapa. All right? But y'all take a look at the animals in the Bible. This is a powerful book. And it's only $10. Okay? Take a look at the link in the description area. All right? And make it do what it do. All right. Islam to all the Moors. Shalawama. I'll see y'all on the next one.